The following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op, in affiliation with the network at bicbb-radio.com.
Welcome to Spotlight in the 716, where we talk about all things theater. Today, I have Jimmy Moses with me here, also known as the Stage Door Medium. So happy to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
I'm excited too.
Jimmy and I have been friends for many years.
Yeah, we're going on. What was our first show?
It was a long time ago. We were kids.
Did you do Children of Eden?
I did.
That was time around.
The first time around. That was my very first show ever.
So that would have been my first. That was my first show.
Are you serious?
Niagara Fine Arts.
Yeah, that was my first show ever.
Okay, I had only done one, but really quick, when you got the call, I know we're jumping right into it. When you got the call offer the part of storyteller, did you think it was like the biggest role in the world?
I was so excited because so when I went in for that audition, my mom like pretty much prepared me that I was not getting this. She was like, okay, like don't be nervous. It's okay if you don't get it. It's not the end of the world. There was like 200 kids there. Yeah. So it was crazy, and I was never done theater before. It was so wild. But she was like, it's okay. So then when they called and offered me something, I was like, oh, I got it. I don't know what this means, but I'm in.
I thought I was just coming off of, I had auditioned for The King and I at Art Park, and I think the year before, and I remember like going to Walmart, printing like my headshot at the photo center, and I got really close to playing the son, Louis, and they get me to callbacks, and they're like, the whistle a happy tune, and they're like, okay, that's you, and I remember I looked at them like just thinking that it was like preposterous to know how to whistle for the song called I Whistle a Happy Tune. I was like, no, I don't whistle. I told them. They're like, okay, thank you. So I went in going, oh, I'm not going to get cast in this. So I remember going, I kept saying, not a storyteller. I kept going, I'm the storyteller. And when I got there were like 45 storytellers.
You're like, oh.
It was a very humbling. It was the best experience.
And Tim Ward is just I will forever talk about Tim Ward because he like changed my whole life.
He was like the gold star. Talk about how I don't think when you're in the thick of it, how lucky you realize you are to have had him as your first director right out of the gate. So to realize that you're literally getting like the best of the best, but as a 13-year-old, you're like. Cool. Now as an adult, I would have been like, tell me more. I want to soak it up. Yes. I did in my way, but.
I think Tim Ward is just everything. Like he, obviously I continued to do shows with the Niagara Fine Arts for many years. And I remember we did Peter Pan, and I was just like a little dancer in the back. Like I was nothing. I was no character. I was just ensemble. And I remember him stopping me in the hallway, grabbing my arm and saying, dear heart, whatever you're doing, keep doing it and don't ever stop. And I was like,
but it made you feel
holy cow.
And on the flip side, so I had 2 Tim Ward experiences. So the first time was Chicago, and it was this really beautiful moment though, where like Tim was the one who taught me to stop like basing your performance off of what you saw. And I remember when I played Fred Casely in Chicago, and I was like, well, I want to do it like this because this is what I saw on Broadway. And he snapped at me like actually really hard in front of people, and he's like, that's not how we do it. And like as a kid, you take it personally, but now I tell everyone the same thing. I don't snap at them, but I'm like, you have to find it your way. But on the flip side, when we had done Peter Pan, do you remember they had the huge rotating rock?
Yes.
Pride Rock, or not Pride Rock, wrong show. Wherever the Lost Boys lived.
Yes.
I remember they couldn't figure out what to do with that extra piece of music, and he kept calling it like vexing. He was like, this is vexing, dear hearts. And so he's like, if anyone has a solution. I grew up watching the Mary Martin one. So on the flip side, I think my brain, it worked well there because I did remember how they did it. And that piece of music was basically when the pirates capture the boys, they're walking them over the top of and that's where the music goes. And I remember I whispered it into Tim's ear, and like he would like do that little, and he was like, dear hearts, James here. I think he called me like Jamie, and I'm like, that's not it. But he's like, he has found the solution to our vexing problem. And you felt like $1 million.
Yes.
$1 million.
I will forever talk about Tim Ward because he's just my hero.
Me too.
But I want to talk more about you and like the craziness that has turned into your life that I've known you for so many years. So then to like hear you have this beautiful, amazing gift, I would love for you to talk about it because like, how did you know you talk about first of all your gift
Sure. So,
for those that don't know.
so I work as a medium. So if sometimes it gets mistaken with psychic. So a medium is a psychic. I always say all mediums are psychics, not all psychics are mediums. So a medium is somebody who can communicate with our loved ones who've crossed over, loved ones, family, friends, not just like the random person that we want to, in a movie. Like it's people that we should know and be able to connect with. Psychics can pick up on past, present, and future. So a medium does that. We get our information through your loved ones that come through during a session. So really, I won't lie. I think you see all of these stories where mediums on television or will talk about how they've known since they were like, I knew since I was 2 years old. And I think it looks really great. It sells well, but I think the honest truth is most people don't. I didn't know. I would pick up on things as a kid, but you are a child. You chalk it up to either an overactive imagination, you chalk it up to just being any of that. I did not think, I didn't think that I had that ability. We grew up watching, like, remember Sylvia Brown?
Yes.
With the big nails and
yes.
and like
oh my gosh, the hair.
The hair. Miss Cleo. I grew up familiar with psychic mediums, but if I were to have watched them, I was like, that's not me. I don't know if I just didn't think that I had that ability. And it wasn't until I was in college, I had gone to Lilydale, I had been read, and the medium was like, you're supposed to be doing this. And I thought that it was kind of like the exit through the gift shop pitch of like, we're going to train you for thousands of dollars. And I just remember it's like, okay, thank you. And I remember when I left, though, I felt like a little switch had been turned on that had always been there. And I'm like, where did that come from? So I did. I went back and I got trained. I think I just met my now husband. So a little like 12 years ago, around there, I got trained. I think this summer will be 12 years. And it was funny because growing up, though, I always knew I was like, I want to be a performer. But then when the time came to, declare a major in college, I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And I admire them so much, but I was like, I don't think I have that fortitude to put myself up on every day to face that type of rejection.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't imagine having to re-interview for my job a couple times a year.
Yeah.
And so I didn't. And I remember being so upset because I was like, I felt like I was letting a part of myself down, that I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to work with actors or Broadway. And small world, the way it kind of came together, I had done a reading for somebody shortly after I started practicing. And then it's crazy how the world is, how connected we are. Somebody had reached out to me on Facebook asking, hi, I hear you do readings. And the name, like, I won't say who, but if you were to look at this person's name, like, she's very attached, like an iconic part of the artwork of an old famous show. And I was like, I know who you are. And so I'd done the reading for her and it went really well. And then from there, it kind of started to spiderweb, not too much. And then the pandemic hit. And so I'd been working professionally, but then when the pandemic hit, like so many people who are artists, you have to air that out somehow. If you're not given the opportunity to be creative, you have to find a way. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
oh gosh, yeah.
That's when I started the podcast. I had done 2 seasons and it was wild. I never would have anticipated that my life would have gone in that direction, to work with like Broadway's upper crust.
So cool.
It's cool. I still can't process it.
It's so crazy. Like the just the stories that we talk about and like the people that come to you for readings. I'm like, are you kidding me?
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Like when Audible contacted me to work with like Betty Buckley, that was like a what the like that was a cool. But then you forget doing this work, like it's not like because you can't prepare, like you can't go in knowing, like then you're like, oh my god, it's like you think that it's like, oh, it's a party, and then you remember like, oh wait, I'm hosting the party. I am the part, like I have to work, like I have to, and so then the nerves set in, and then now I can put it aside, but
yeah.
Oh yeah, I still geek out.
Oh, okay. Am I allowed to know like your favorite reading with someone
With a Broadway
specifically.
person?
Yeah.
Mm,
Favorite performer you've read?
okay. Ooh. Okay. Oh, yeah. I think I can. Um, yeah. Honestly, probably out of those two seasons, probably either Julia Murney. Julia Murney was a special one for me because I grew up
Mm-hmm.
listening to The Wild Party,
Oh.
and I'd never heard an instrument like hers. Like it's so singular that the
Mm-hmm.
vibrato, the quality to it, and so I remembered that was really special. And she, I kind of geeked out, and that's why I called it Stage Door, because for me, as a kid, when you're going to the stage store after to meet those artists, like uh, it's for me, it was always that moment to like thank them for what they just gave me. So I feel like there's
Mm-hmm.
still that theater kid in me that when I get to meet them, I do geek out. Though I would say probably her and Stephanie J. Block were my,
Ugh.
and she scared the shit out of me. So because she's very formal in her emails, and so when Jen Colella had put the two of us in touch together, and Jen Colella was just really sweet. She was like, "I had a great time. Who do you want for the podcast?" And I was like, "Wait, is this a joke?" And she's like, "Yeah." She calls everyone brother. She's like, "Brother, who do you want?" And I was like, "Sister." I would like Stephanie J. Block, and it didn't sound as cool. I didn't try it. I was like, I'm not going to do it. But so I had asked her. I was like, "Are you familiar with mediumship, Stephanie?" And I sent this like really kind, where you're like, how many exclamation points do I use before people think that you're ill?
Yep.
And
Every day
so
of
I
my
was
life.
like, put some periods in there, and she just replied back like, "Yes, I am familiar. I will do this." And I was like,
Okay.
and I told her, I was like, "Your emails are terrifying." She goes, "Ah," and then she has this like, her tone. There's a quality. She goes, "Oh, Jimmy, I'm sorry." Like there's a melodic, and she's like, "I am very business in my," and she doesn't mean to be. And hers was special.
That's awesome. I literally would be like, hi.
Well,
Hi.
it was cool because, and I can share this because she talked about it, but right before I read her, I had seen the Cher show,
Mm-hmm.
and right at the start, she pops out of the floor as like Cher in like the that classic black skimpy outfit, and um, I'll never forget when I read her I think longtime boyfriend had come through, and I remember I got the name, and by that point you're like sweating because you're like, you just, she meant so much to me and does, that you just want to do a good job and return back. And
Yes.
I was like, why are they making me feel like I'm catapulted? And then like he's like touching your hand and like talking, and long story short, before she would come out of the lift every night in the Cher show in the floor, she would touch the wall and she would say his name, and she's like, "Let's do this together." And so
Oh,
then to then go back and kind of see that dichotomy, like I now know things that it's just really special to be like, wow,
yes.
like you know, someone's motivation for going into a show, and it's I still think about that
That
one.
like makes my heart. Oh,
She was cool.
that is. Oh,
And really quick, shout out to her because she was the most gracious out of all of them. She had Tony a winner, like she's the peak of the, and she was the first one who said, "Hi, can you send me a Google Drive with promotional materials and the date you want to air our podcast so I can share it and I can publicize you." It was just so unexpected, so
that's so
gracious.
sweet.
I've
That is.
never forgotten that.
That is really special. Like truly.
She was
Wow.
cool.
And I love when we see the humanity in these actors, like
Yeah.
that they're people, and that they have the things that we have that every day that like you
Yeah.
don't necessarily think about. I don't know. I feel like it kind of connects you more to them as people.
1000%.
That's so
She
cool.
was awesome.
So when it comes to like doing
Doing this.
readings and doing all of this, now I know because I was lucky enough to be with you, but you made your way back to the stage after how many years off the stage? Like how does that feel like different now wise?
It was crazy. Like I still think about, like, the show ended what, 6 weeks ago,
Yeah.
and I think about it like once or twice a week, going like, "Oh my god, I did that." Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, Like so.
Also, for those that did not see it, we were just in the show Beautiful at Niagara Falls High School,
Yeah.
where you played Jerry Goffin. Incredible, absolutely incredible work.
you.
And that's why I was like,
You too.
after not being on the stage for like so long, and I obviously like I know the hiatus but for me,
17 years.
that's crazy. Mine wasn't that long, and I came
17.
into the ensemble world, so like I could still like just do the. You stepped in 17 years off the stage, and then was like a lead. Like how did that make you feel? How did like
It was. I wish I could say it was scary, and certain parts maybe felt oddly it was freeing, only because I think I kept trying to get out of it so many times.
I know.
Like, I know you know, and I just was like,
I was
no,
texting
I think that part of my life is done, and I appreciate it, but I felt like the universe kept going, no, we're going to put this back on your plate. Like, I think I was given like 3 or 4 opportunities that I kept saying no to it, and the universe would find another way to be like, I'm right behind you. And so I said yes, but I think if anything, it was so freeing, because now, you figure I've got 12 years under my belt as a medium. And what happened is I do a lot of live shows as a medium where you're up on stage alone. And that's scary to me, to go, I can't prepare. I have no clue who's coming. I have no clue what's going to come through. Mm-hmm. I'm always kind of like oh my gosh, like, is this on? Is this on before you go on stage? And so to go from that, where you're working alone, outside of your spiritual team, like I always like give them credit, like, but to then go into a company where like you can prepare, you have a script, you have people that have your back the entire show. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, this is easy. And I felt like, I don't know about you, but like, do you feel like as an adult, the emotional access now
way easier
is the shit that we've been through, that I'm like, yes. Oh, I remember the first rehearsal that they blocked me into the hospital, and he has the meltdown, and like, and I'm not one of those people that was like, I have to cry here, but like, it just felt natural for Jerry to finally let it out. And so I remember the first rehearsal, I don't think you were there at that one. Mm-hmm. And they're like snot and tears, and they're like, how are you doing this? I was like, I'm just thinking about my day. And I was like, listen, if I cry now, I don't have to have my meltdown in the car. I don't have to. And so, I mean, all joking aside, to tap into, just thinking about my week. And so I'm like, if I found a way to like tap into my own, finally, I felt like, oh, here's what I can pull from my life to tell this guy's story. And if I hadn't gone through it, I can't tell you how many times I've worked with clients who've lost loved ones, and while he didn't, die from that, but like where their kids have struggled with drug addiction, or their spouses, or infidelity. So if I hadn't gone through it personally, I felt like that was my way to like honor some of their stories from people that I'd met.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so there were, I won't say, but there were 3 particular people nightly that I would talk to before I would go on. I was like, I've never met you, but I brought you through during a reading, and I'm doing this for you tonight.
Oh,
and so
that's so cool.
That was my door in. That felt normal to me, to do it through mediumship. I mean, I wasn't reading people during the show, but to take that same type of empathy that you have, and just funnel it that way.
That's really cool. Oh, what?
I miss that.
Yeah. Holy cow. So then going back to like doing your stage, like where you're on the stage. Now I saw you when you came to the Palace, and you did a reading, like readings through the audience there, which that was so cool. And the coolest one to me was the dog that came through. That like, how do you read a dog? Like,
so dogs have energy.
That's crazy.
The dogs have energy that the same way people do. Mm-hmm. And I love. My husband and I were huge dog people. We don't have, I almost flipped it. We don't have 2-legged children yet. We have 4. And so for me, I always have to remind myself that somebody might be coming to a reading with the sole purpose of wanting to connect with their animals. So what I do is when I read, I kind of, we look here. We naturally look here when we talk. So when I do a reading, I always kind of make sure to scan the floor. And so now if they think that I'm going to miss them, the dog, or cat, though I find more dogs, I will hear one of 2 things. If I can just feel a tickle by my calf, that's a small dog. if I can hear, it's larger. And so, and then I can feel up my thigh or up my leg how tall the dog would be. And then I'll put my finger out. So during the reading, if I can feel fur go through it, it's typically like a shepherd, like a German shepherd, a retriever, or like a lab that would have needed to have been groomed. A long-haired, yeah.
That's wild.
But dogs are like, that like today I done a reading before I got here, and this woman came. I thought really quick, not to. I'm sorry, but I promise it ties in.
Please, all
I read this woman. She was so sweet, and I was like, "I've got your dog here," and I was like, "It's like a poo. It's a something poo," and she was like, "Yeah, it was. I think like a cavapoo or something, or a cockapoo."
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'll only see the color because I don't know the smaller dogs as well. But I was like, "It's little. It's white and gray," and she's like, "Yep." And I didn't know what I was saying. I just thought it was like I just said, "Hey, this feels unexpected to me." I thought it was an illness. And I just said, no amount of money could have kept the dog here or could have. No, that was it. Because I remember goosebumps, the language. I said, no amount of money could have brought the dog back. I'm just thinking it's like, can we throw money at a hospital treatment?
Yeah.
She told me at the end, I was like, why does that feel weird? My wording, her dog had been stolen. And so the unexpected, but then the no amount of money, she was like, we had contemplated so many times, do we do like a crazy high reward to bring the dog back?
Wow.
And so, yeah.
That's crazy.
So the dog literally just came through to like clear the air because I think she had bottled so much guilt over like, how could I have allowed that to happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's so wild. Holy cow.
Yeah.
I'm always blown away by like your gift because.
Thank you. I think we all have it though. Like when I walked in, it started going off bells and whistles. But I don't know if I'm reading on you guys or if I'm reading on people that have been in the space.
Yeah.
In the past, like there were two very specific things that happened when I got here. But I think we all have it. It's like a muscle. So it's like I think we all have, like, we can all sing. Will everyone be the greatest singer in the world? No. But that doesn't mean that you can't use this to bring joy and I think the same thing, like I think we all have this ability. Should everyone be doing mediumship? No. Like based on how some of them, I think the hardest part of mediumship, if you don't know how to talk to people, that's the hard, like, and for me, I think being a teacher, it goes so well because like I think we have in 2024 we have to be so cognizant of the literally whatever comes out of our mouth. I feel like we have to filter it beforehand. You teach dance and like
absolutely.
And so I think with mediumship, I think teaching has helped me be really mindful of like, what do I share? How do I share this? And how can you still be kind? And I think not everyone has that ability to share something in a kind. And so same thing. It's a muscle. Do you want to work it out? Do you want to take this to the gym every day, so to speak? And because Lord knows I'm not going to the real gym, but I'm going to the spiritual gym every day.
Oh, girl, I feel that.
So I think like anyone could do it.
That's so
we
cool.
all, like, how many times have you been in the store and you're like, I'm not going to pick this lane. And then sure enough, like, I don't know why. I don't want to go to this one. It's the shorter lane, but we go to this one. And then we see a car accident happen outside of Target. And we're like, man, if I had only been in that lane, I would have gotten out early. It's just that I think we all have gut impressions. I think it starts there. Not to turn this into like a spiritual,
no,
but gut impressions. How many times as a mom now will you go, I don't like this person, or like, and you tell your son, it's just a mother's intuition. Yes, but it's also like, I think we're designed to pick up on things for the people that we love and care for. And then from there, I think it's that muscle that we can start to really fine tune.
Yeah, that's so nifty. Like
I can't wait to be a parent because I'm going to be like, I feel like built in. In
like,
addition to the parent instinct, I'm like, who is so-and-so? Just scare the shit out of them. You can't pull anything.
Nothing. You get away with nothing. Yeah, no, my son asks me all the time. He's like, how did you know? I'm like, I just have mother's intuition. Just trust me. Yeah. Just trust me. That's so crazy, like, to think about, though. I mean, we all have, like, a gut instinct. That there's times where I'm personally, like, people have told me that I'm connected with things, and I just am like, no, I don't.
It runs on your mom's side of the family.
That's crazy.
Does your mom have a sister?
Yeah.
She has this a lot.
Yeah, that's crazy because we talk about it a lot in our family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She gets dreams a lot too.
Yes. Yes. Oh my
Like
God,
really
yeah.
vivid ones where like it plays out exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, my sister too. My sister has like a lot of like really intense dreams of like our loved ones specifically that have passed. And
Passed.
she's like, I think this means something, but
Yeah.
like I don't know. And I was like, actually, it might be them just visiting, like
Sometimes
saying
they're just
hi.
visits. Yeah.
Yeah, just I'm also like I'm so into dreams and into I'm like there's always meaning. I know that there's a meaning that
I
I'm
know
having this
nothing
dream.
about them.
Oh,
I because that's my time that my brain shuts off to rest. My mom gets them, but my mom is.
I
My
love
mom
your
is
mother.
the biggest chicken shit. I love her, and she'll call me and she gets them almost like a couple times a week. I don't know. She'll always say, I don't know what I smoked before bed. I'm like, you don't smoke. You had a lot of Diet Pepsi though, and I don't. That might be contributing, but she'll be like, well, I had a dream where Mom Nani came to me and she was about to say, I was like, what did she say? She was, I don't know. It freaked me out. I woke. I don't want to know. I'm like, then you have to stop.
I can
Like,
just see your mom saying
she's like, woo.
she's
I'm
so
like, Mom, I
cute.
think you have this ability. No, I don't. Or she'll be like, oh, her cousin who had passed, Aunt Tammy came to me and she was about to say something, but I was like, no, I gotta wake up. And I'm like, Mom, just let it finish.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's so funny. I love your mother. She's so funny.
I love her.
She always has something good to say.
You were really quick. I have to give her. She's gonna be so pissed. I'm sharing this. When the business first took off, my mom was reaching out to Broadway strangers. Oh wait, people people whose work she just loved and was offering them. It was like the equivalent of putting like for a good time on the bathroom wall. She was like, for a good reading, call my son. So now, mind you, I probably, if you have to cut this, cut it, but it's December 23rd. What day before? I always say Christmas Eve is my bigger.
Yeah.
Phone rings. It's like 10 at night. I'm like 212, and I thought it was like Angela about the extended warranty for your vehicle. And I was like, fuck Angela. And she's like, hi, is this Jimmy Moses? And I'm like, yes. I'm like, she's like, I can't say because she was you would know her. She a bigger Broadway personality. She's in radio as well. And she's like, this is so and so, and I'm like, okay. And I'm like, why are you calling? And I'm looking at my husband, going like, it's. And I'm like giving the name, and he's like, what? And she's like, well, I hope you don't mind, but I just got back to reading my emails, and your mother sent me a lovely email with your name and number and just told me when I'm ready to redeem this reading to call you. So now she's going on for like, and I'm like, I was wondering, do you have time tonight? I was like, it's 10:20 now, or like 10:30. I was like, no, I don't. And so I called my mom. I was like, do you have any idea why blank would be? She's like, she called you? She's like, I'm like, yes, Mom. Who else did you do this to? And she's like, no one. I'm like, I know you gave my number out. So somewhere there are more.
Oh, I'm crying. Oh my gosh.
That's my mom.
You're
Fiercely supportive, and
oh my gosh, absolutely. I love her. She is fiercely supportive because she supports me. I love
she
her.
loves you.
I love her. I think she's the sweetest woman. She's so funny. Like, oh, that's so silly.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Just offering them like,
that's really funny. I don't know why this actually brought up the thought. So when you do your readings, now the last time when you were at the palace, you had a guest with you.
yeah.
So tell me about her. How did you like get in contact and how
Oh my
did
God,
that
it's
happen?
so cool. So Jenny Denoya, hi Jenny, if you're watching this. Jenny was the really cool claim to fame is the longest running Elphaba in the world. So she played her on every continent, every what's called like a replica production of Wicked. So it looks identical to Broadway. So she played all of them. So she holds a distinction. She was I had done a reading for somebody from Buffalo, grew up Nikki Venditti, who's the dance captain of Wicked on Broadway. And he was like, I have a really cool, crunchy, like down to earth person I think you would love. He's like, her name's Jenny Denoya. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a huge fan of like as a theater person, you know that name. And so she was my first podcast reading. I remember white knuckling it. I just wanted to do the best job for her. She was so cool. And she, there's this cool crossover period where there's somewhere like you really become friends with. And I'm in those 45 minutes, like, I think just because you're so vulnerable with somebody, I don't know. I knew it. There was a magic, just a magic experience. And so I we kept in touch. And then when we would go to New York, we would get together. And it was just, I was like, oh, I think we're friends. And so I wanted to try something new. So I wanted to try to incorporate having a Broadway artist with me. And it was really cool that was a pinch me moment to like during tech, she was doing Wizard and I, and to be like, oh my gosh, like last time I saw her do this was like on Broadway. Or like I remember seeing her on the tour going, this is the best Elphaba in the world. And then flash forward like 8 to 9 years later, she's in a theater for an event of mine. That was crazy.
Yeah, that was so cool because she was so wonderful. She's so talented. And then like to have you guys do this like collaboration.
It was the coolest.
Yeah.
And she is the textbook example of, so many times I tell people in theater, if they're newer, if they're in college or they're training, or like I just went to they're doing the Lightning Thief
Spotlight.
Spotlight, thank you.
Yes.
I blanked on the name. I was telling them, so many times when you don't get the role, like it has nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's really an energetic connection. So every Elphaba, like I want to submit for the Guinness Book of World Records because I think I've read now 13 Elphabas, 14. So I don't know what other medium has, but they all have the similar energy. They're all deeply rooted to the earth, no drama. I think there's maybe only one Elphaba that I've met or that didn't fit that bill. And like you could feel it in that performance. It is an energetic. So I tell them, I'm like, if you didn't get the part, it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Like it's a like the Glindas all have a particular energy as and who they are outside of it. And I think it reminds them, if they're taking it the right way, of just how special their energy is and what they bring into a room. And like you shouldn't be trying to tamp that down or change that to get a, if it's, and like similarly, like when we did Beautiful, like I felt like those parts fit like a glove for us.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%.
It's energy.
And our energy, I feel like together, like the four of us, Christina, you, me, Matt, like we just clicked. It was easy.
I think my favorite part of doing that show with you was like I don't want to cry talking about it, but I'll never forget like how special it was. Like I felt like I was transported to being like 15 again, where I would
Allie too.
Allie, like we would be in the wings just watching each other, and we would be like the first person to like squeeze the other's hand after, to be like, oh my God, that was so good. Or she'd be like, I recorded that. Or like, I'm like, Audrianna, I'm just filming you the whole time. Like it brought me back to like what it was to like witness your gift for the first time as like a teenager. I remember seeing you on stage. No, it would have been Eden. But I'll never forget, like, your voice is singular. Like, you have such a special sound. And so then to be as an adult, to get to revisit that. Yeah. And to find that still we were like those cheerleaders for each other.
Yes. And
that was cool.
That's what I love about, and I've talked to a couple different people about this. I feel like every theater company has like a vibe. Okay. And it's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It's just a vibe.
But it's a vibe.
Yeah. And it's like an energy that like some are very like, okay, we're here to work. Let's get the job done. Let's, and then some just make you feel like family and make you feel like home. And like, that's what I will always love working with that group, because like, those are the people that I grew up with. Like
NFAP was family.
Yeah, it was definitely family. And it's like those people that I grew up doing theater with, like still like 20 years later, they have such an imprint on my heart that I just I like working with Allie Casale, but now Fitch. Like we have been friends since we were 8 years old, doing theaters, doing 5 shows a year together. And it was like, we dragged her back, and then getting her back on the stage was just,
I'm so glad she did.
Me too. It was just so, it was so special in a way that like there aren't words.
But it's also a testament to those teachers that we had growing up, because I felt like they created such a space where it was magic. Yes. I felt like they found a way to, like, I don't know how they did it, corralling like 60 to 70 like wildly horny, sexually confused, dramatic teenagers
of like, but not only teenagers, but it was like 13 to like 20
but harnessing that energy, getting the results with the show, but then finding ways to like single out every person, give them a compliment, make you feel like you were part of the team, like you knew what your cog in the gear was and how you helped that. It was it, I've yet to see some that have been replicated that
Honestly,
it was special.
That was truly special, and I once again it goes back to Tim Ward, because
Yeah.
he started this whole, and that's what I love about theater too, is like not only are you trying to make the audience feel, but I feel like the more connected you are as a cast, the more you can make an audience feel. Like,
You
if that
did
makes sense.
something every night that would get me. So right before the meltdown, I would just watch you in the wings sing Walking in the Rain. And when you would do that we got so much we share, I was like, you sound so good. I remember I would start to use that time. It sounds weird, but I was like, okay, here we go. Like, start to take whatever she's giving you to get you emotional, just like sit with it. And I remember you would come off the stage, and I remember you had another quick pop back on, but you would always squeeze my hand after of like, because I remember like Jerry's about to go into the part where he's probably the most manic. He feels the loneliest. He's probably at his lowest. And I remember you would just squeeze it. And I felt like it was like your way of just going like, you're okay. Like, we've got this. And that's all it took for me to then go, okay, here's what I need to catapult into that. It was always because of you.
I love that
And
so much.
I never told you that. And that's,
I love that. But this, like, truly, I am someone that the betterment of the show is the most important thing.
Yeah.
I personally, I don't do theater to be validated or be the star. I do theater because I love how it makes people feel.
Yeah.
And like, comedy is definitely where I go, because that's like, I find myself to be a funny person. But like,
you are.
that's just,
And comedy's hard. And you excel at it. Like,
thank you.
I know.
Comedy is
You
definitely,
excel.
it's my comfort. Comedy is definitely my comfort. But to make someone feel like more emotion and things, I think that's so powerful. But I can't do it alone. And it's like every single person is what makes the show. So like, no matter, if I tell people all the time, I don't care if I'm the lead or if I'm tree number 43. Like, I will give the same energy. I will give you, like, because it's what is for the betterment of the show. How can we make this audience feel something? And that's what makes theater special.
The minute you understand when you walk into that door, through that door, that theater, like, I always tell people with mediumship, like, I see mediumship as like as an act of service. Like, I can only do 2 a day. It drains me. If you're not really careful about separating, like, I love if I have like a really heavy reading, I can go home and walk our dogs who are like, the dogs don't care that I had a really heavy, they're like, I have to poop, please walk me and pick up our poop, and then we're gonna bark and like and pull you on the, like, it's really humbling and grounding to go. And I always tell people, I'm like, the minute you recognize theater is an act of service. I just read this great quote, and it stopped me dead in my tracks, because it says it better than I think I can, but it says, like, audience members don't go to see you on stage, they go to see themselves. And I was like, oh, and it's so true. And I think when you start to reorient your brain of going, this is an act of service. And I'll never forget, like, Jerry would in Beautiful would elicit those very visceral disgust, or not booze, but like enough. But then I would remember I would find people in that audience every night where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you went through this.
Yeah.
And they want to hate him, and at the very end of the show, when Jerry apologizes, and there's no attachments, there's no I'm sorry because he just says I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You could hear those people that had gone through that journey in the night break open.
Yeah.
And I think it was Tim. Somebody used to tell us, like, give it away.
Yeah.
Like, it's no longer yours. Like, give it away. And I think that's really powerful, to be able to give that back to them at the end of the night.
Truly.
And hold that mirror up.
Yeah. That's exactly. Yeah. I definitely 1,000,000% agree. And I think the connection, I don't know. Do you feel like there's a deeper connection? Like, do you feel a deeper connection because you're spiritually connected?
I find myself at this point in my life, like, more porous than ever. And so even now, like, and I don't know if it's the spiritual, I also, like, I was talking about this with a friend of mine. We were talking about Carole King and how she got pregnant so young, and she, she had a family, but she was working, and then I got emotional because I was like, oh my gosh, like this sounds like my mom. My mom hadn't been cheated on, but she had this up and down of like, I'm literally flying the plane while it's being built. Like, I'm getting to know your father while we're raising a family. And like, those were those moments where there were nights where I was like, I think I want to tell this part for her. And so I don't know if it was, if it's the mediumship part, but I will say I would always talk with him. He was one of my wallpapers on my phone, was Jerry. And so at the start of the show, I would just go, however, I can honor you tonight. And fun fact though, this is like, I haven't even shared it yet on my business because I didn't want to sound too like wacko, but the day the show ended, and I should note though that I don't know about you, like now because you've done it more than I have as an adult, but I felt like that show healed parts of me that I don't think I knew. I was suffering from anxiety badly, and that show kind of rewired my brain because I was like, is this healthy to be jumping into a show where you're playing somebody with crippling anxiety, and how do I tell my body
that this isn't real?
I started to do the same thing that I would do with my readings, to go, this isn't mine, I'm not taking this home. But it rewired my body and my mind. And the night the show ended, our dogs get up at like an ungodly hour to like go pee, and when I say pee, it really means like they want breakfast at 3 a.m. and our puggle will just scream for food. So my husband went to let the dogs out, and it's only happened to me about maybe like 2 or 3 times. I should say 2 or 3 times a year when I'm really stressed I'll close my eyes and I feel like I can see light, like little pinholes, and light just floods through. He goes to let the dogs out. I close my eyes to fall back asleep, and I know I'm awake. The whole room went gold, and I was like, what is this? Similar way where it starts off like boop, 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 boop. And then I was like, who is this? Who's trying to talk to me? Clear as day, Jerry. And I just literally heard, thank you. Light went out, and I was like, get out of here. And he comes back to bed, and I was like, oh my God, this just happened. I don't fully remember. I think he was just kind of like, cool, and just went back to bed. You know what I mean? Like it was, he's so like, cool. I'm like, I just talked with the spirit of Jerry Goffin. Cool. I'm going back to bed. He's like, we'll talk about it in the morning when I've had coffee. But yeah, cool.
That's so cool though. That's crazy.
Have you had any, like, when you did Evita, did you like ever have any, like, because Patti LuPone tells those stories where like Evita, like she swears like flung open her windows and she knew that she was going to be okay. Did you have any like?
So during Evita, that show, that was the first show that I had to like push myself mentally, emotionally, and vocally. Like vocally, that was a difficult show. Belting for like 3 weeks of my life.
And she was so good.
She
was so good.
Oh, thanks, Jimmy. I just,
like, I would say my wig flew off, but your wig flew off.
Literally, when
while you were dying.
And it got stuck to the bedpost, and I was sitting there like, oh, no, I'm stuck. I'm not moving.
I remember like Dennis going, no,
don't move. I was like, okay.
Because you were just about to tilt your head like every actor does to be like, I'm dying. And then that wig was going, nope, nope.
Got stuck to the bedpost. I was like, oh, and I'm just going to die here now. It was so funny. But it's one of those moments that I'm just like, well, yeah.
And then they're coming in there where they're doing that eyes, hair, face, and they're like, all must be preserved.
It was so funny. I love moments like that too, because I'm like, now I get to laugh at this.
But keep going. I'm sorry. I was like, I couldn't. I was like, the wig.
Oh, grab
the wig.
The other time was when the other funny moment I had in that show was when I had to undress before, like out of the ball gown on stage. Like Kat came on stage, and she was like, Audrey, I can't get it undone. I can't get it undone. And I was like, rip it off. Just rip it off. Like, just go. Oh, it was so bad because like whoever corseted me in that, they got me good, and it got stuck, and I was like, just rip it, just rip it. Just rip it. I was like, I can't go off stage. We can't cut this. It is what it is.
Just keep going.
Make it work. And Kat was like panicking. Oh, poor Kat. Love you.
But did you get Like, what do you do to like go into like that's a dark?
Um, I feel like I get into a place as a character, which is why I genuinely like working on happier things and funnier things, because then it keeps my life like when I'm working outside of the
Sure.
rehearsal space on it, it keeps me in a lighter mode. I'm somebody that really likes to dig into the character. Like I like to know why. Why are you doing the things that
Yeah.
you do? Because people don't just do things. There's always a
Yes.
reason. And so like the in-depth of Avita is so complex, and it's very self-driven and self-motivated because everything had a motive that she did, and she was very smart. And I after really digging, I don't think people really understood how smart she was, and how
Yeah.
even though she wanted good things, like the manipulation she had to get there, but in
Oh,
a
for
positive.
sure.
I mean, it was a very torn back and forth, and it was a character that I had never played before. Not that I never play the serious roles, but to play such a stiff character was not me. So it was like, okay, this is a lot of work. This is a lot of, and it was a lot of pressure because that show heavily relies on you getting your crap together. So I feel like the hardest thing for me in that show was just being like, don't let everybody else down. Don't let everybody else down. Do your job. Do your job. Do your
Yeah.
job. And I also feel bad because there was a lot of times where, just to like stay in character, there were times where I was on stage, then I did a backstage class, came right back on. So like I broke the character, so like I stayed in this like stiff character. And when like we were working with students
Yeah.
too, so then when they're like trying to be like, hey, great job, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I felt bad because I'm like, these kids don't understand. It's just like me staying in this and not breaking because I don't want to break the momentum.
I would talk with them after. So at
Yeah.
intermission, or I would talk with them after Jerry was done for the night, because I they would sometimes wanna, and I'm like, nope, I can't yet.
Yeah, I
I
gotta
can't.
keep
Like
it.
this is too. And then the minute I got through the hospital scene, then I would have fun, because then I was like, okay, he gets to just be a jerk now for one final scene. But once I got through the heavy stuff, I would like strip tease with the hospital gown, or like I would see Teresa like on that like drug trip like
Yeah.
thing that she was doing. I was like, okay, like, and then I would talk with them to be like, hey, business is business, and like now I'm out of
Yeah.
here, and like we're good. Like, how was your
Yeah.
day? Like, what did you do? And
Exactly. And it's so I actually really love being able to work with these students so that they can like they
yeah,
I remember doing with the same group that we worked with, what show was it? I think it was Smokey Joe's Cafe. It was like the first show that they did, and Jill Shank, not Shank because she's married now, but her and I were talking backstage. She was another one who did shows with us for
the
many, many
best.
years. And she her and I were just like sitting there talking, and we had a young girl come up to us, and she was like, I'm gonna go to New York. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna be on Broadway. And Jill just turned to me and she was like, should we tell her? And I was like, we'll let her figure it out, because
Yeah,
it is a lot of work. And I think having that dream is a great thing, but also understanding the amount
yeah,
of like work that you have to put in, that you are your job. You are
yeah,
constantly putting in the work, physically, mentally, emotionally,
yeah.
taking the rejection, constant rejection, and then being able to keep going. And I love having the opportunity to like not ground these kids, but be like, this is the opportunities you have, and if you want it, you can get it.
Yep,
You absolutely can get it, but know that it's not gonna be handed to you.
yep.
You will work your butt off, but it'll be worth it if this is what you really want.
But
Like,
just the sheer fact though that like you guys inspired, like that's why I did it. Like I saw Niagara Catholic's production of Pippin. I was an eighth grader, like shadowing, and they did their spring musical, and Tara Lowry,
oh,
who's now, since she passed away,
I
and
love. Ugh.
she was the leading player, which was kind of like revolutionary for the time because it was always Ben Vereen. So,
Yeah,
Tara was ahead of the curve. Now it's like what Patina Miller and whatnot. And but I was like, oh wow, like she was magic, and I was like, I want
yeah,
to do that. And I'll never forget. It was like just simple flash paper, but to see like fire come out of her hands, like those two things. Like I tell my students now when I direct, I'm like, you never know what kids are watching you, like, and I try to like that you're going to inspire to want to do this. And
yeah,
I feel like they forget sometimes just what a hand me down type of environment their in not the legacy of the arts. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
how it could have been somebody like just seeing one quick thing happen on stage. Oh, I want to shoot fire out of my hands, and then that
Yeah.
person develops a lifelong. And no matter what
Yeah.
you do with it, even if you don't pursue theater outside of your experience, like I feel like it just sets you up for just the skills that you can take into any workplace,
Oh, absolutely.
any relationship, the best.
Absolutely. And like the one thing that I took my son to see The Lion King,
Yeah.
and I was like, so what do you think? I want him so badly to be in theater, but I'm not going to force it. I just like, introduce him. He's only 10. He's like definitely a video gaming kind of kid. And I was like, what do you think? And he was like, honestly, that was really cool. And it may not be my passion, but I can say that I respect it.
Yeah.
I have a very old soul 10-year-old. So
Well, he might want to do the tech for a show. Like at
that's
one
where
point, I
he-
was going, where? Remember when they put all the little green dots? I was like,
Yeah.
where are the green dots coming from? And I ended up finding them, and I felt like the woman next to me was like, oh God, what's wrong in the theater? I think she thought another animal was coming out because I kept looking around, and I was like, oh, I found it. So like that's the other thing, like. It's a art. Like you might have a kid that watches that show that's like, I just want to build puppets now, or I
Yeah.
want to figure out. And so like, there's something really magical about how it's passed down from one generation to the next. Based, we might not think we're doing life shattering or earth shattering things, but to that kid seeing it, it's powerful.
Truly, true. And I was just talking. We were talking earlier about this, but like, I remember as a kid, I went to go at LaSalle High School that far ago when it existed. I saw Fame. It was probably one of the first productions I'd ever seen. Because my brother was playing in the pit, so obviously my mom was like, "We have to go support your brother."
Yeah.
And I will never forget Cece Colvin standing on that taxi singing at the end of Fame, and I like those moments. And she was only a kid; she was in high school at the time. But like that moment for me was like, wow. Like first of all, girl got pipes; she could sing. Second of all, like I was like this little tiny person looking at this teenager being like, wow. And although she didn't know it, that was like changing for me, that I was like, this is something really cool. And obviously, like, it took me a little bit of time to get into it because I had no idea what theater was. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just supporting my brother playing in the pit. And it wasn't until
The gateway. Yeah.
yeah, until actually bullying is the true reason that I got into theater, because I was bullied so hard, and one of the only friends that I had at the time, Mariah Case James, who I adore,
Yeah.
she was like, you should audition for this show with me. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. She was like, you can use my sheet music. And like, I showed up at the audition and she gave me her sheet music. I literally went right after her. I remember being terrified because I walked into a room and Tommy Vitello was playing the piano.
This was for Eden.
Yeah, this was for Eden. And it was Tim, Mo, Gracie, and I want to say that there was somebody else sitting in the front row. And I will never forget Tim just sitting there with his glasses, just like
It was
smiling.
Donnie Shrimpton.
Was it Donnie?
I think it was Donnie.
No, I think it was Tom, because I was in the children's chorus.
But I thought Donnie was the accompanist for
Oh,
that.
probably. I don't know. It was 20
I think it
years
was
ago.
Donnie.
Oh, Donnie Shrimpton. Oh, he was just so lovely too. He's funny.
Donnie.
But yeah, I just remember being terrified,
Yep.
and I remember singing, and Tim giving me the biggest smile, and I walked out, and it was like, but it all started because Mariah was my friend, and she was like, "You should do this with me," and I was like, "Okay." And then after that, like, Children of Eden was the summer show. Then I did their fall show. Then I like, and it just like,
I mean, my memory, I will never forget. Like, when I saw Copa at the high school, I don't know if that was their first show at that space.
I think no, what was the first one?
First one that I saw.
That was like the third. Yeah, because there was Footloose before that, and then.
But I mean, I can literally tell you where on the, like, I remember going, oh my God, there's a shower on stage. They brought out, it was a blue tiled shower that they brought out because when he's doing at the Copa,
Yeah,
she's like,
Andrew
Steven!
Roble.
And she's, Jill Shank was, or now
Yeah.
cutting him off. And I remember literally it was like in between center and stage left. Like, that's how branded, like, that's what theater does for people. I can
Yeah.
tell you everything about that show. I remembered it to the T because, like, and I was like, oh, I want to do that next year. And so it lives on,
I loved
it's a
it.
self-sustaining.
Oh yeah. It's so but I'm so happy that I got to have you on
Yeah,
and talk to you.
thank you.
And I also so you have stuff coming up.
Yeah.
What
Not here yet, but two in Connecticut. So 22nd and the 23rd or the 21st. I will check it. It's at the Legacy Theater in Connecticut. This gorgeous, again, really fun story though, just about how small the world is. So incredible theater. It was like at one point it was like an old. It was a warehouse for the war for World War II.
wow.
Then it became a movie house and then a puppet house. And so anyway, they had brought me in last year and I was like, I've only been to Connecticut a few times. And sadly it was to say goodbye to my aunt before she passed, and this really beautiful hospice. And he was like, I think you're thinking of Connecticut hospice. It was like the first. And I'm like, I don't know. And would you believe it ended up being a 5-minute drive from the theater? So I was then able to go back and see her, like her brick that had been put in her honor, and I donated some readings for the hospice workers. So to like, again, that whole circle of like, everything's a circle.
So
We always
cool.
come back to it. And so that's going to be in February. And then there's a couple other ones coming up later in the year that I can talk about hopefully soon. So good stuff.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you, and I'm so
Thank you.
happy to see you like thriving and doing all of
You
the
too.
things. I have just
Yeah.
to finish off with this, because not only are you a phenomenal performer and a medium, but you're also an amazing director. And so
Oh,
like
thank you. Oh, we did Matilda.
yes, you directed Matilda at the Lockport Palace, and that was such a beautiful experience. You're such like a beautiful director in the sense that you truly like dig into the character. You make every single character feel so important. Like
They are.
and but not only like you're not the type of director to just be like, okay, you go here, you go here, you go here. You're like, let's talk about it. Like let's have a
If you
conversation
don't
about
care,
it.
they won't care. And like, I will never forget. It's so funny that you say this. I was going through cleaning up my computer last night. I found this folder. I was like, what is this folder? It was like a couple gigs, and it was all the photos my husband took of the tech. And I started to get like a little weepy, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that one of those other moments of like, oh my God, we did that.
Yes.
And there, I will never forget how you took. I was like, give me like you played the cook. I found the photo. I found the photo last night. I'm gonna show it to you. You just like how you ran with that. I think it's a spectrum of like really working with like you have to care so they feel inspired, but then also like it's a fountain and they give like the performers and the creatives give it right back to you where you want to do more for them, because Matilda was a cool.
That really was. And that's why have you thought about like directing again?
Yeah, well, yes. I'm directing Hadestown, the teen edition, coming up in April.
Where at? Give us the details.
City Honors School.
City
So
Honors.
I
Very
teach
cool.
at City Honors. And yeah, this is our first show back since the pandemic. I'm excited. We're setting Hadestown itself in like an old abandoned carnival. And so when he goes in to find her, he's going through like, I don't know if you remember those old laugh houses, but it was like a big like a devil mouth. And
Yeah.
he has to go through the mouth. And the very end, it's a maze of mirrors. So I'm excited to dig in and find different, because, I kept listening to the score and I was like, so much of this sounds like a carnival. I was like, there's a ticket. They arrive in on a train. And I was reading. I was like, how would people have like escaped during the Great Depression? I was like, people weren't going to carnivals. That was like the main. They were going to carnivals. So it's like, okay, we're going to try it a little different. And
That's so
again,
cool.
not repeating the pattern. Again, thanks to Tim Ward.
Yeah.
When Tim was like, don't do it the way you saw it. And my students were like, how are we going to do the turntable? I'm like, we're not. We can't
Yeah.
afford a freaking turntable. And like, Greeks didn't have, this is an old, like it's a modern retelling of a Greek tragedy. They didn't have turntables back then.
Mm-hmm. That's
You
so
bring
cool.
your own energy. We'll tell this story and we'll figure it out as we do it. So
I
yeah.
can't wait to see it. I'm
Thank
so
you. I
excited.
can't wait. I love you.
I absolutely love you, and I'm so appreciative of you coming on and
you.
talking to me. I think, like, once again, you have the most amazing gift, and I love seeing all the things you're doing, and I can't wait to like hear and see more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for watching Spotlight in the 716. Till next time.